Okay guys, moment of truth. First of all, thank you everybody for such a great help. This was a journey for me for sure to diagnose this problem. So I got the valve cover off, and so let's see. Here's the cylinder, 2, 4, 6 and 8. Here's the exhaust valve. Here's the intake. The intake is pretty tight. I don't see anything that it's not loose. Same as exhaust. So the spring intact on both. So see if the camera can pick it up. I have a hard time to get a light on it. Yeah, that should be fine. So so we're going to focus on these two guys here. So first I'm going to do a compression test, and then we're going to do a running test real quick. Okay. Again, thank you everybody for great help. You guys are awesome. So okay, let's get the compression. Let's do a cranking test. Okay, I'm not sure what you guys could see it there. There's a lot of oil. I have to get it cleaned up. So let's do a running test real quick. I'm gonna start it up for a second. Okay, that should be enough. Alright, boy, it's a lot of smoke. Alright, so I need to look at the camera to see what we got. Well guys, now we know what it is. Definitely intake lifter is causing a problem. And so basically this is a day 2. What I'm going to do, truck is gone. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some clips, what I did yesterday. What I realized, thanks to you guys, is that this is actually a what's called a active fuel management engine, where computer is deactivating cylinder number 4 and 6 on that bank and 7 and 1 on the other bank. So being that on cylinder number 4 that I'm having a problem with, my concern was that is that a solenoid that could cause a problem. So I'm going to put a couple of clips where I actually did a circuitry check with a current clamp on each of the of 4 solenoids for each cylinder, and then I put a insular pressure transducer in back into number 4 again, and did I used the virus and used the bidirectional control to activate each solenoid, and I looked the current clamp, and then as I said I put a pressure transducer in, and then we did the same thing on number 4. I activated the solenoid, so we can it's actually a nice capture to see how computer actually seals everything up. So my concern was, is it possible that, I mean, again, I don't have experience with this. Apparently it's a very common problem that these fail on these trucks. On these engines, I just never had the experience. So my question was, is it possible that if the solenoid is stuck open as I'm cranking the engine over, and there's not enough oil pressure for that solenoid to deactivate my lifter? And once I start the engine, there's enough oil, and maybe my solenoid is deactivating my lifter. So I did all these tests. So for the sake of the video, I'm just going to put those little clips in there. You guys are going to be able to follow it. And so now, first of all, I want to thank Joshua from Georgia. He was very nice that he actually talked to me, helped me, because I have a problem. I had a little discrepancy on the diagram. for number 4 solenoid, on one diagram there was like a green and black wire, on another it was orange wire. So the orange wire was the right one. So he pointed me just to, you know, put the current clamp on each one of them and activate each solenoid. That way you can oscillate find your circuit. So that was a great tip. So I did all that stuff. So that's great. So now I think my turning point there is it a problem with my lifter? Is it a problem with my solenoid? Is actually a Stasman. I think his name is Terry. He's a good guy. He's smart. I love you guys. So he made a huge comment on this on the first video, and there's something that he added to it. It says, at cranking speed, there wouldn't be a lot of oil pressure needed since the RPM is lower than a running speed. Evidently, when the engine is running, more oil pressure is needed where the lifter can't hold the pressure for too long, so it goes into collapsed condition. So, and he could actually see that on that waveform that I uploaded on the first video. And of course, many of you guys did it as well. So, that was my turning point. I was right, this is it. Okay, so it has to be the lifter. Then I talked to my other dude on YouTube, Robert from Texas. Hello, Robert. Thank you. So I was still kind of iffy what is going on. He was like, well, why don't you just do a extended crank time and see if the lifter is gonna collapse as we crank longer. And it did. And at the end of the video, I actually did another relative compression test, and now when I did the longer crank time, literally the lifter just collapsed it all the way. And now you can actually, as soon as I crank the engine over, now you can actually you can hear it that it skips right away. Now, when I filmed that lifters, the cranking time and running time with the valve off, there's something that caught my attention. Probably you guys have seen it as well. I looked through when I stopped the camera, and then I went back and looked through my camera, and I could see that my intake valve is working fine during cranking, and then it was stuck during running. But there's at the very end, the very last moment, as I was cranking the engine, I think on the last revolution, we can actually see that the rocker arm actually did stop. And at that time, actually, I stopped cranking. If I would crank that engine just maybe 3 or 4 seconds longer, I think it would collapse. So this was kind of struggle that I could never. The lifter was working okay during the cranking. I remember there's a video that Scanner Danner uploaded not long ago that had a Chrysler minivan, had a similar problem, and he did a first relative compression test. He was okay, and then he did a little extended crank, and we could see that one of the valves are actually dropping down, and so this was my struggle, but. I think it was a great experience for me. It really is. I mean, thank you guys so much for help. So let's see all these other little things that I've done, and then we'll kind of recap at the end and maybe look kind of all the other waveforms that we did, and just kind of put everything together, how that happened and why did it happen. And since now we know exactly what causing our problem. So okay, so I got my M clamp over the all of these 40 wires, all 4 of the solenoids, and let's just do a current ramp. Oh boy. Alright, I'm just gonna go number 4 first. Okay. Alright, so that's number 4. That's number 7. See, on this bank, its RPM picks up like crazy when this is activated. I don't know what the strategy is, but so number 6. This is on the same back as number 4. Okay. Alright, and then number 1. There you go. Alright. Okay, so number 4. Okay, it's working, so let's I got my stuff ready, so let's start the truck and man. Okay, so let's do this. There's some changes there. Let's see the exit. Okay, well, something did happen. Seems like it might move the exhaust valve. Okay, so we have the same thing as we had the other day, where we start 117 and okay, drops down 60, whatnot. So basically, seems like this time the valve was, you know, start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It sounds like kind of it was activated 6 times and then shut it off. So let's see what. So here is, so the compression did increase just every so slightly there. Let's get some. So, okay. So here's my exhaust, right, guys? This is my exhaust. This is my so-called compression. And when I activated my valve, definitely it worked on a exhaust valve. So right now we don't see anything anymore. So I love picoscope. So here's my exhaust, and I'm activating my solenoid, and now all the valves are shut. so exhaust and an intake are, you know, shut off, and so it's working. It's actuating the exhaust valve, but it's not, of course, doing on the intake. I mean, this is definite. I think again, I'm not expert, but I believe I can see that here for sure. There's no question. This is my exhaust stroke. This is my compression stroke. And now once we activate the solenoid, the exhaust valve is closed, and now we just have peaks of compression here. So, and it's, the pressure goes up a little bit, and goes, now it's solenoid is off. We can see the exhaust valve open again, and that's it. That's pretty much goes down to zero, because, you know, there's nothing else going on in the cylinder. So I guess the reason, okay, so so the reason we have a 0 psi is because, of course, now we do know that intake valve, it's not opening, exhaust is, and that's why it's nothing, you know, we're just pushing the air out, but we're not sucking anything in. So that's why we have a 0 psi. That's definite right now, so we know that for sure. All right, guys. Well, I'm going back to square one. I'm going to do a relative compression test again. I'm going to sync off the cylinder number 2. You know what? Just put it on number 4 so we know what's going on. It's better because I'm not sure. My firing order might be messed up. So let's just do it again. All right, I think I'm done. Oh, Lord. Okay, so that's it. No question about it. We got a lifter problem. So why my relative compression test was okay yesterday, and now we can see that it's all messed up. This is all right. So here's my number 2. I don't even know. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't even know. I think this was my. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I mean, we can see now. It's that's it. And I don't know why this stupid thing yesterday and even today when I was working, it was fine. So until I start to kind of, what I did actually, I started cranking it a little bit longer and longer and longer, and all of a sudden it started to kind of skipping on me, and I said, let's just get another relative compression test, and that's it. It's a bad lifter. I mean, there's nothing else could be anymore. So, all right. It's I don't know why the first time when I did the relative compression test, I mean, it was great. It was not a problem at all. And today, I mean, you guys could see it. My intake valve was working. And I was talking to a friend of mine from Texas, and he said, well, I just do some longer crank time, and I actually started kind of doing it, and all of a sudden it started to skip on me. I said, let's grab the current clamp, and this is it. I mean, this was Crazy. Anyway, all right. It's a bad lifter. Now we know my solenoid is okay, the circuitry is fine, the PCM is okay. It's actually cool to see how the exhaust valve is shutting off and the solenoid is activated, and that's a bad lifter. I mean, there's nothing else to it. Okay guys, so we could see what I've done. First, I apologize for video quality. I just didn't want to drag too long for what I've done, so I kind of got just the clips that what I did. So basically we know that I verified the circuitry on my solenoids, as well as a operational of my solenoid on number 4. Even though I couldn't really see any, of course, activity on the intake valve, we could see the exhaust it was working fine. So I just want to go through these waveforms one more time, and I was amazed how many of you guys were able to dissect all these waveforms and figure out what was happening. And to me, the turning point was a first look sensor. This is the unit that this thing I had it for like a year. It was sitting in the drawer. I never had to use it, and this is the first time I got it out of the drawer to put in my intake, and there was a moment when I got my funnel, my way, I had my direction, that I had a mechanical issue. There's nothing else that I had to check, and that was the way I needed to go to finish the diagnosis. And having you guys on my side, of course, it was a great help, because I was still kind of struggling to figure this out. And so anyway, we could see that on this first look sensor, the positive pressure, the signal goes up. On the negative pressure, signal goes down, and we can see that because the cylinder is blocked, and during the intake there are no hump basically that draws that goes down, that indicates that the cylinder is actually sucking, so to speak, all the fuel and air. So this was a great example how we can use a first look sensor to get direction with the valve issues. I've used a vacuum gauge first, but the first look sensor was a lot more, of course, detailed. There was a definitive answer that there's something's going on. So we should see 8 equal humps for each cylinder, and literally there was one that was missing. Basically, there was a negative pressure in a cylinder and a high pressure in the intake, due to the fact that the intake valve was completely shut. I hope I said that right. So let's see. Cranking the fuel first look sensors, and this was when my whole confusion started, due to the fact that everything was fine during the cranking, but running compression test was really difficult for me to understand. I just never seen the lifter that can collapse like that. So, and now we can see that and this is what we want to see. And as I said a lot on my first video, there was a little discrepancy right at the where the intake valve opens around here. There was this change here, and literally, I mean, this now I believe it is the reason that, and I mean you can see this said here, but this is, and we can see repetitive here and well, here as well. So I think, for me now, if I ever gonna do my relative compression test or doing insular pressure transducer test, I will incorporate my first look sensor for sure. It just gives you the better picture of what is going on. So, and we could see that this time, I mean, there's a little bit difference here and here, but anyway, you can see that we do have activity on each cylinder. It's here. It's kind of tough to see, and it's not persistent. And if I would crank the engine just a little bit longer, I would definitely, resolve this issue a lot faster. And and you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and every time the cylinder opens, there's going to be a drop in a pressure inside the intake due to the fact that we're going to pull that mixture of fuel and air into the cylinder, and that's what happens here. So let's see the. And you guys already know all this. I'm just, I just like to do it, I guess, again. But it was amazing to me how you guys could. Oh, what am I doing? Let's see. There's a running. And I think what the cool thing is now, since we know, no, this is not it. Hold on a second. Should be this one. Now we could see that valve would open maybe 3 or 4 times before it's completely shut off, and that's exactly what we could see. We could see here, where and now unfortunately I was hoping that I'm going to be able to see activity on my first look sensor, but it's just I can't. Right in here, I was hoping I can see, we can see a little bit here during the cranking, but when the engine starts, and basically this is the moment when the lifters, that the rocker arm opens here, and then a little less and a little less, and then it just goes straight down to 0, and here's that, let's see here, because of, I mean, this is where the first look sensor really comes into place, and this is what I didn't understand right away, but now, since we know what is going on, we can actually, we can see a lot better. This is my compression stroke, this is my exhaust stroke, and right here, when the moment when we should have basically, I'm sorry guys, a negative pressure, we can actually see, I guess, the other humps from another cylinders, but because this is such a huge differential pressure, it kind of gives everything else is kind of pushed to the side. But this is why where we had a where the intake valves are open, should open, but we're building up the pressure that's supposed to be, so we're supposed to open the cylinder, but it stays closed, and that's why we have this this hump here, right, where the I mean, this is really cool. I mean, that again, having a first look sensor on it, it just really makes, I'm sorry guys, it makes a big deal. It gives you a lot of information. Unfortunately I couldn't see it. I mean, I know that it's not that I do not have stuck closed exhaust valve due to the fact that my exhaust is always at the 0, so I know that was not the case. Now we see that we have 1428 psi of vacuum, so there's a lot of vacuum that's building up in the cylinder right now as the piston goes down from the top to the bottom of that center, and so that's pretty cool. And see, we can see where the rocker arms opens once, and second time and third time is at a tick, 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 and boom, it goes down to 0. And this is what was really confusing to me. I didn't understand how this could happen. Well guys, I just realized I actually didn't save any of the waveforms that I done yesterday, so that really sucks. But anyway, you could guys see on those clips what I was doing, and we could see how when I de-energized the solenoid, we could see that the exhaust valve was basically disappeared, and we had those equal humps. And so I'm sorry I didn't save that. So, but that's it. So anyway, there's something else I want to talk about real quick. I'm not sure how long this is going to take, but everything that I've done on this truck, and all the tests that I've done with my automotive picoscope, and I got this back in the summer on eBay on a ridiculous low price. You know, that's very expensive scope and a 4-channel, but I got real lucky. But if you guys want to do this stuff, there's a great alternative for it, and this is what I used before. This little picoscope, the 2000 series picoscope. This is a 2204A. Yeah, 2204A. And I had a couple of videos with this scope, and I used this picoscope before. This is just a regular 2-channel scope, and there's something wrong with the A channel. Doesn't work anymore. But this was like a 2202. Worked pretty good for years, and then something happened to it. So, so what I want to say, if you guys want to get into the electric compression test, even the secondary ignition waveforms, really you don't need that much money to get going. And picoscope, it's still one of the best scopes. You're going to have the best resolution with it. One big advantage of the picoscope is that you can actually customize your probes. So what I want to do in the next video, I'm going to do a little comparison between this scope and the automotive picoscope. We're going to do some maybe secondary ignition waveforms, and maybe insular pressure transducer tests, and see, you know, resolution between two scopes. And you're going to see there's not going to be any difference at all. That you can do all that. This scope I bought 6-7 months ago. I paid like $150 on eBay new. I think they're a little bit higher now, around maybe $200. This one didn't come with any leads, just a scope. And this one also has a waveform generator that can kind of be handy sometimes if you do some bypass testing. But something else I want to say also is that all of the pressure transducers that I'm using they're just pretty cheap. $15 Chinese pressure transducers. All you're gonna make is a 5-volt, 5-volt regulator. They're all over. I have a video how to make. I got this one. Literally, this cost like $15 to make it. So like I made like 3 of them. I got this one. Whatever I could actually find to make one. So and of course, this is a first look sensor. I got this thing a long time ago. As I said, I never used it. This is the first time I used it. This is a turning point in my diagnosis. This is something that gave me a great direction, since I didn't have experience with these things. You guys know that I know this is a common problem, but for me, that was the first time. So this was a great tool that gave me a good direction. Also, I have a video on my channel how to make one of these for literally like $10. It's not going to give you as good resolution, but it's going to be good enough to tell you what's going on. And so in my next video, I'm going to do a little comparison between these two scopes and just give you some perspective. You know, what expect from this little scope. You will be really amazed what it can do. And then in another video, I plan to completely customize this scope for automotive, meaning to get our pressure transducers, because you can actually customize your probes. Something else I also say for you other guys who have automotive scope and using a aftermarket pressure transducers, I have a video where I use a lookup table to customize my pressure transducers. The problem with that, I could never figure out how to measure my negative pressure. I could only do it for the positive pressure. So one of the brainiacs on YouTube, his name is Dmitry Luchenkov. Somehow he found me on YouTube, so we kind of get in contact. So he made a great video how to actually, the formula, how to figure out all these numbers, and it's pretty simple. Put everything in your software, and you can customize any pressure transducers you need to. I know some of you guys already know that, but many guys don't, including me. I didn't know that, so Dimitri was very nice to upload that video, and I'm going to leave a link in the description to that video so you guys can actually look at it and just follow this formula. You can customize any scope. He made it for 100 psi, and so now I made one for basically what I use. I use 100 psi for fuel pressure testing, and I actually use the 300 psi pressure transducers for in-cylinder pressure transducer testing, because it's going to give me better resolution. We're talking about, you know, up to maximum of 180 or I don't know 200 psi of pressure. So 300 psi is going to give you better resolution than 500 psi pressure transducer. And with these, you know, it's just a cheap pressure transducer. Works great. Never had problems with it. There's one time that I believe these pressure transducers, they do not like fuel. I had one that failed on me, 100 psi. So what I actually did on the, I don't want to go to that right now, but I changed my setup a little bit. This is a snap-on 100 psi pressure transducer. But what I did actually, I made this attachment here, and here's my. So I can screw it in, but this doesn't have a Schrader valve in it. So once I'm done, I can, you know, just leave it upright and let all the fuel drain out of it, because it did kill one of those old, you know, those cheap pressure transducers. Now, would it damage the snap-on? I'm not sure. If you have like a quick connect, because the fuel stays in it. Sometimes maybe you can drain it, but some of the fuel will stay. So I'm not sure if that could kill the pressure transducer. As I said, it killed one of these cheap ones. So that's the only thing. But other than that, when it comes to resolution and all that, it's pretty good. It works fine. You guys could see it. It does a pretty good job. So okay, I'm gonna finish this video. Thank you guys so much. Thanks everybody for great help. It's just my privilege and honor to be part of this automotive family, and having you guys on my side, and having everybody you know, it's just great. I mean, now actually I already talking to a whole bunch of guys on YouTube that I met through the YouTube, and we're great friends now, and we never actually met, but we're just talking on the phone, and it's just really great way of sharing the knowledge, and I really enjoy. I really like. I love the YouTube. I really do. Again, thank you guys so much. This was really one of the for me, I would say one of the best videos in a way of using pretty much all the diagnostic equipment that I had. I actually incorporated into this diagnosis. Was it overkill? Maybe. But for me, I just had, you know, it was one of those things where I was very confused. I did not have enough information, and having all these tools that gave me the funnel where what direction to go to, it was a great help, of course. So okay. Well, again, next video is going to be shootout between these two scopes, and then we're going to customize this little guy for automotive usage, and I think you guys are going to like that a lot. So okay. Thank you so much, everyone, and all right, see you next time. Bye-bye.